Hello, everyone. Welcome to the virtual roundtable on Decoding Holistic Employee Well-being, Building Resilient and Healthy Workplaces, presented by ETHRWorld and Practo. The concept of the healthy workplace is not new, but it has indeed changed, evolved from a nearly exclusive focus on occupational health and safety to a holistic approach towards wellness, including work organization, workplace culture, and lifestyle, all of which can profoundly influence employee health. The pandemic has clearly brought employee well-being to the center stage. Studies suggest that in order to reap long-term benefits for employees and the business at large, organizations must prioritize the health of its people. With this virtual roundtable focused on unraveling effective frameworks for holistic employee well-being, we aim to put forth strong viewpoints and effective strategies for collaborative efforts in ensuring access to a decent work environment and sustainable livelihoods to employees across the globe by leveraging newest technologies and tools. I am Apeksha Kaushik, your host for this session, and I'm glad to welcome you all to this unique discussion. Allow me now to introduce our esteemed panelists. We have with us Chandni Kamal, Global HR Head, Inclusion and Diversity, Employee Engagement and Experience, Rewards and Recognition, Wellness, HCL Technologies. Welcome, Chandni.
Thank you, Apeksha, so much. It's my pleasure being a part of this roundtable with such eminent speakers that we're going to be seeing. So thank you.
Thank you, Chandni. We have with us now Geetika Mehta. She's a CHRO for Zeppe Official. Welcome, Geetika.
Thanks, Apeksha. Pleasure to be here. Look forward to an engaging session.
And now we have Dr. Rajiv Agrawal. He's Senior Vice President and National Leader, Key Account Relation and Digital Health Strategy, Employee Health and Benefits, Marsh. Welcome, Dr. Rajiv.
Thank you, Apeksha, and looking forward for a very engaging session today. Thank you.
And finally, we have with us Shikha Saxena. She's President at Practo. Welcome, Shikha.
Thank you, Apeksha. Good morning, everybody, and look forward to a very engaging session forward.
Great to have you all. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. So before we start, there's a small message for the audience who are joining us today. I would like to tell you that we'll be running a brief Q&A at the end of this roundtable. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the Q&A section. And if you miss anything, don't worry. The on-demand recording will be made available post the session. So just be here and listen to what our expert panel today has to share with all of you. So without further delay, let's begin today's session. And I'll jump on to the first question and I'll open the floor to each one of you to begin with, because it is a very pertinent question, which I would like to have all of your opinion on. So if you can please share your thoughts on some of the key employee health trends shaped by COVID-19. And Dr. Rajiv, if we can start with you.
Thank you, Apeksha, and pleasure being here. I think last 2 years have been very, very uncertain times. And the way healthcare has shaped up within the industry and within insurance, non-insurance industry overall, I think I would say it is a paradigm shift. Probably the work which couldn't happen in last over a decade has happened in this 2 years. That's a silver lining what pandemic has brought in play. Some of the key shifts, what we see, when we compare a pre-pandemic time to the times what we have, evolved over last 2 years. I think in healthcare and safety of the employees is on the topmost priority of all the organizations today. And when we talk about healthcare and safety, digital healthcare is on the top of the charts. We ran a survey, for about 500 employers in India, and outcome of these two surveys clearly showcase that digital healthcare was priority for only 17% of the organizations, and post-pandemic in the current period, it is almost about 90% today. So that's a paradigm shift what we see. Second important change is mental health. I think mental health, it was just about EAP services, within the organization, and utilization has been extremely, extremely low. But today, organizations are looking at making mental health more holistic, even, including colleagues within the organization certified as mental health first aiders, to support the organization within the overall system. I think that's a big shift. Third important aspect, what I see is the focus on primary healthcare, which was around 30-40% pre-pandemic, and today is almost about 90% plus. Organizations today do not want employees to be ill and then cater to the requirements. They want to be more holistic. They want to include prevention in place, so that it is more about well-being rather than treating the employees when they are ill and when they need hospitalization. I think these are three most important trends where I see that the organizations have shifted their stances. They have relooked on the budgets, what they have assigned towards overall well-being of the employees. I think this is what I see.
Dr. Rajiv, Shikha, if I can have you speak now on.
Yeah, sure, Apeksha. So while it is true that most companies offer health benefits to all their employees, until the pandemic, these were mostly restricted to health insurance plans for their employees as well as their families, and maybe extending this benefit to an annual health check program in few cases. But this has actually changed over the last 18 months. Today, as we speak, most companies are choosing integrated healthcare plans, which not only put an emphasis on health emergency, but also prioritizes the overall well-being of the employee with regular and effective interventions. So basically, since the pandemic, access to physical healthcare was obviously limited. And this has caused corporates to pivot quickly towards virtual care. Now, corporates have realized the need for health plans that are well-structured and more personalized. Basically, employees are now seeking a one-stop solution for all their healthcare needs. This includes, safe options to consult doctors online, especially at the odd hours, in-person appointment booking facilities to avoid long wait times at the hospitals or even at the clinics. They're looking forward to online medicine deliveries. The traditional health checks are changing, and now employees are looking forward to having health checks being conducted in the safety of their residences. And another very important trend is mental well-being solutions, coupled with access to qualified counselors available for a one-to-one counseling. And I believe by offering these in one comprehensive package, employers have the opportunity now to help their employees prioritize and take control of their health. Well, we expect this trend of digital healthcare solutions to continue. In fact, even the employees who said that they tend to be skeptical of the new tech, we've seen this over the last 18 months that almost 2/3 have used telemedicine, or as we know it as online consults, to access a doctor or other digital healthcare services over last 12 to 18 months.
Sure, Shikha. Gitika, from an organization perspective or corporate perspective, can we have your viewpoints here?
Sure. So I think Dr. Rajiv and Shikha have obviously covered in terms of what's available in industry and how the shift is happening. But I think internally, if I just look at the mirror, what's really happening is I think the benefits that companies used to extend to employees, which used to be insurance, which were very, very employee focused, are now sort of getting expanded. So the definition of employee for even organizations is expanding to extended family, to immediate family. So a lot of the wellness initiatives, programs that companies are offering, they're not just individual limited, but to their families as well. So I think that's one thing where companies are becoming more empathetic, and the definition of my employee is not just an employee, but an extended part of a family, because they get impacted by what happens at their family level as well. So I think that's one thing which is happening. The other trend that I'm definitely seeing, and it's again coming from both having gone through the second wave of COVID and seeing how all of us had to sort of come together. I think now it's moving beyond just wellness or employee experience to sort of helping employees across a spectrum of things. For example, financial inclusion, right? You need something to help with your medical cost. You used to have these very standard salary advance policies, medical reimbursements, loan policies, etc., which are now transforming to becoming more inclusive. you're essentially putting together money aside for some sort of exigency that could happen. Benevolence funds are coming into picture. So companies are thinking a lot about, how can you, like I said, expand one from an employee to a family concept and, include everybody. And secondly, how can you move away from in-point employee experience to more at every stage of their life, what are they facing challenges on, and helping in each one of those stages and being there and supporting and showing that empathy through obviously structured programs and designs.
Over to you, Chandni, for your insights here.
And I guess all points are pretty much covered, but I'll just probably add on here is, I think now from an organization perspective, it's become slightly easier because exactly as Dr. Rajiv said, how people have shifted, right? Earlier it was 17%, now it is a 90% interest that people are showing. So I guess the need was always there. It was just that we did not prioritize it. It always was down in the priority list saying, okay, fine, we need to do other things. This will just come up later. But now I think everyone has started to realize that wellness, well-being is in the top priority, just not as an employee, but as an employer, as leaders and managers. We understand now that it is one of the most important aspects. And I guess COVID has taught us that, right? The entire shift has happened in this last 18 months. And we clearly see that. So now it's the opportunity that the organizations or HR like us have, that we need to ensure that we capture this bit and continue the the aspect. The journey needs to go on here. It's not that, okay, fine, okay, now third wave, I don't think third wave is coming. Now it's all okay. Now let's get back to where we were. No. So here we need to ensure that we've come to one level and now let's move on ahead of it. So I think to some large extent, the focus has come now for whatever good or bad reason, but I think it's there to stay, and we need to ensure that we make use of that bit of it. And exactly as Gitika said, it's just not about employees anymore, it's the extended families, whereas at HCL we mostly as an insurance package, the health checkup is for the employee, but at HCL we also extend the health checkup to the entire extended family, be it from parents to parent-in-laws to spouse, kids, siblings, and so on, right? And we've seen a great uptake in these programs as well. So I think that's something which needs to continue. That would be my
Great, Chandni. Thank you all of you for your opening remarks on the trends which have been shaped up by COVID-19 in workplaces. So like we have already talking about the shifts. So there has been a very, a very major shift which has happened, that is the hybrid workplace structures. So while it will prevail in the new model of work, return to office is going to be taxing. What do organizations need to keep in mind to maintain or enhance employee safety and well-being as on-site work makes a comeback? And this question, maybe Gitika, if you'd like to take this up.
Sure. So, I think first and foremost, and I just want to call out for the benefit of the audience, if anybody is planning to sort of get employees back to work, is that you need to be very clear of why do you want them to come back to work, right? So those use cases of whether it's collaboration within the teams, inter-teams, intra-teams, whether it's social capital building, or whether it's just providing some sort of a space for employees to break the monotony of work from home. I think these are the insights which one should definitely keep at the back of their heads, when they're trying to figure out, leaders, HR teams, when they're trying to figure out how to get back people to work or why to get them. And I think once that why is very, very clear, in coming down to sort of, what are the brass tacks of, putting together the entire safety bit, how do you assure employees that it's safe to be at work? Clearly, I think there have to be some very, very visible commitments around that, right? So for example, how do you design the layout of your office, right? How are you doing? Hybrid is going to be the future. I personally believe, I don't think so people are coming back to work full time, in the pre-COVID, how we used to work. So if hybrid is the future, then, how do you, for example, ensure that there is a certain amount of people on the floor all the time and it's not a completely packed floor? So you sort of have like a work allocation, or how do you bring back people in smaller groups and cohorts? How do you design your workspace? Is it is conducive for social distancing? Things which are very important, for example, advanced air circulation systems, giving them support in terms of on-site testing, making sure people are fully vaccinated, So I think just the physical safety of it, which is very, very important for people. And I think organizations will have to spend a lot of time. Having said that, I think one point again I want to call out is that coming to work has two parts to it. One is the safety at the workplace and the other bit is the commute. right? And a lot of employees are anxious about the commute. So I think that's one thing where, again, going back to the use case that you have, companies will have to think of strategies like in a place like Bombay, for example, can you actually do hyper-local offices, right? You don't get everybody to come to the same workplace, but minimize their commute and maybe have them work in, let's say, in an area which is close to their homes. So I think that's something which will play a very, very important role. And the other thing I think organizations need to keep in mind is that, and we've been doing that at Zeppe as well, is that there's no one size solution approach anymore, right? You need to listen, you need to figure out what works for everybody. For some people, something else might work. There could be roles which can be completely remote, right? So one has to keep all of that stuff in mind. And moving on to the part of Apeksha about, well-being and wellness and mental health, right? I think, it's now becoming, we were just discussed this earlier as well, but it's becoming very, very important now to move away from a mindset of, very transactional wellness programs to say that, okay, fine, we have ABC, but have a very comprehensive thought process around it. For example, people mentioned, Dr. Rajiv mentioned, access to primary healthcare, very important, right? We saw COVID second wave, people just didn't know where to go, right? Access to good mental health counselors, right? So tie-ups with firms, and there are many, thankfully, now who provide that, right? So giving that opportunity to employees, having employee resource groups within the company, right? People need social capital to be built. They need people who they can speak to, making it part of your culture, right? How do you have mental health conversations getting more and more normalized, conducting workshops, education sessions, awareness sessions, right? So I would say it has to be a comprehensive, like I said, wellness approach, not limited to the employee, extended to their families, where they feel comfortable about it and they think that, okay, fine, I'm being sort of taken care of. And I think it's also at the end of it, your visible efforts plus how you communicate, how much you communicate, and how do you stay agile, because the virus is mutating, right? And things are changing literally on a week-on-week basis. So how do you give them the comfort that you're agile enough and you can adapt to any kind of situation that might pop up, right? So that's how I would probably say that, that's how organizations can enhance or improve the safety and well-being at the workplace.
Great, Ritika, some great points made there. So while we talked about what we need to do, it is important to also discuss where we stand at this point and where the gaps are. So Chandni, if we can have you answer this question, and if you can just throw some light on the immediate challenges in framing effective strategies for holistic employee well-being practices at work.
Yeah, sure, Apeksha. I think, exactly as we discussed earlier as well, the COVID times have taught us a lot, and I think we've become more conscious on these aspects. So I guess the gaps have for sure reduced a lot, and we exactly, I wouldn't say exactly, but yeah, we know to a large extent what we need to be doing. So I think one of the interesting shift that we're seeing right now is about moving from a wellness to a well-being aspect, right? So wellness it was just about health or health checkup that you do, and be it from a sick leave to during the pandemic leaves and all that. But I think the entire focus has moved to the holistic program, which is now called as the well-being. Now it encompasses a lot of other things, right? It starts off right from your physical, psychological, that's the mental well-being, the financial bit of it. So all of this is a package now. And also the other thing that comes out as is of the inclusion aspect, the D&I or the inclusion bit of it, right? The youngsters today look at an organization when they join. Earlier, it was just about, oh, I get a good compensation and I'm good there, right? And then it moved on to what are the benefits that I'm getting. Now it's also the environment that I'm going to be getting there. What as an organization that we can offer as a holistic package. Now, so all of this now encompasses as a well-being package that will help us, of course, retain the right talent and attract the right talent, right? So earlier, the gap that was there was probably investing of your time, funding, or your interest levels on this entire bit of it, and of course the support that came from the management or at the manager's level, right? What happens is managers would say, hey, you know what, the work is more important, you can do the rest of it later. So now the shift is there. Today, if we are having a session which is happening, let's say for a meditation session, or let it be like for your physical wellness, we have a lot of sessions like Zumba, Pilates, yoga, and name it, and we have all to cater to different set of people, right? So that I'm not a Zumba kind of a person. I like, a yoga would be an easier. So you're having so many more programs that are getting created, and there each one of us can be a part of whatever interests us. And the fortunate part here now is the support that we are getting from the management as well. Earlier it will be like, hey, this is the most important project, you finish this, your Zumba and yoga can just go on later, right? And I think one of the other things that kind of made it easier for us was from the virtual aspect. We thought virtual things these things may not work. Business is of course difficult to handle, but these would be an impossible task. But I'll give you my experience here was when we used to do physical sessions, people had to get up and come all the way to the classroom or wherever the session is happening and be a part of yoga, meditation, or whatever, right? Now what's happening, now that it's virtual, we've seen such a great surge in the participation. And that's because you didn't have to go anywhere. You just had to sit at your own place and yet do your entire laughter, yoga, say Zumba, whatever, right? So it became so much more easier from a virtual aspect. So again, my only bit here would be that we need to ensure that we continue this bit of it and not let go in between, not let go saying, you know what, okay, now people are just getting used to it. No, I think as HRs or as managers, we have to keep ensuring that these initiatives keep running and we keep encouraging our employees to be a part of all of this, because until unless you don't have an employee who is totally stress-free, I mean, we never can be a stress-free group of people, but at least in these times when most of the researchers showed that stress, anxiety, loneliness was the top responses in all the surveys. Now that is something that we can kind of control with all of these initiatives. So I think the end point, or the final point that I would want to make here is it's not about wellness. It's now as a well-being, which is having a lot of other factors. Probably initially we would not have thought inclusion as being a part of the well-being, but it is a part of well-being. So as we keep moving ahead, there will be a lot of more such topics which will keep getting added to it. And as managers, as HRs, and as leaders, we need to ensure that we are able to identify them and make them as a package so that our employees get the best of everything, so that when they come to the that there is a reason other than work that they come to offices, to the workplace, and give their best and feel their best as well at the same time. So
great, Chandni, very valid points made there. Like you touched upon the things of anxiety and stress and all, we like to take that a step further. We already know that, the conversation around mental health has been growing louder amid increased workplace stress and burnout. And in this discussion also, we have already touched upon the panel has resonated the importance of mental health. So how has this impacted expectations of corporate healthcare plans? Shikha, your opinion is, will be very important here. So if you can take this up.
Sure, Apeksha. I think mental health is an extremely relevant subject to be discussed, and I think more and more corporates are adapting to it. So basically, in the era of social distancing, loneliness and isolation, which is coupled with anxiety about an uncertain future, this has basically led to a plethora of challenges for all of us in recent times. I guess many of us have undergone some major health issues. Most of us also went through the infection, the COVID infection drill, and few unfortunate people have also had to face loss of losing, near and dear ones. Also, so many of us have undergone, some sort of a financial stress during these COVID times. In fact, for many of us, remote work has blurred the work-life balance completely. And I think all these things together have mounted to some amount of mental stress, within us. And even as life goes back to near normal and offices also begin to reopen, stress-associated problems remain constant among employees, which is deteriorating their mental health. In fact, many employees, almost over 40%, have said that quality mental health support is difficult to find or access in the time of their need. And this 40% and above employee who have stated this is likely a high proportion of all those who have sought support on the mental health side at some point or the other. So basically, we are sure that employers can help here, and it would mean a lot to their employees if they did this. In fact, what offers some great hope in this scenario is that a growing number of corporates are rethinking their overall employee well-being policy to ensure that there is an inclusion of a good mental health program. There's greater emphasis on having discussions on mental well-being and organizing sessions to help employers manage these challenges better. And it's only pertinent that corporate health plans, which are currently running, are tailored to basically meet this particular need of the employee, which is extremely relevant in these times. For instance, insurance coverages and other programs covering the cost of mental health have been seen extremely valuable by the employees. And this is the feedback that we have been receiving. Also, many employees have, they attach a lot of value to the AI-driven counseling and tools to build skills like mindfulness and resilience. Also, one-to-one virtual mental health advice to address anxiety, sadness, or let's say personal relationship issues by a specialized counselor was also found to be extremely valuable. And also this particular counseling available at the hour when they needed it the most. So mental, when you need some sort of a mental counseling, it's not that you need it now and this particular counseling is available to you, let's say 24 hours later. When you are mentally stressed, you need to talk. You need to talk to someone at that moment. So having this service for you available at that moment is something which is termed as extremely valuable by the employees that, at least we've got feedback on. Also, a very high percentage of employees have found services for children, for teenagers, as well as their old parents to be very valuable, suggesting this to be an area where employers could have a meaningful impact and tailor some programs around, around these sort of mental health services. So basically, net employers that provide mental health and counseling benefit, they create stronger bonds with their employees, which in turn, of course, makes employees more happy, more healthy, and at the end of it, more productive.
Great, Shikha. We had an audience question also on the same lines. I hope the answer, we have been able to answer your question. It is on the stigma that is attached to mental health and how to open up conversations around it. So I hope that question has been answered. So moving ahead, Dr. Rajiv, if we can bring you in the picture now. So there are a lot of studies that suggest that digital activities lead to both positive as well as negative effects. And so it is extremely important that these are identified, recognized, and managed well. As an industry leader, I would like to have your opinion on your take on this actually, and how is digital well-being playing on both the parts, and is it on top of your C-suite agenda?
Yeah, I think definitely digital well-being is on the topmost priority, but I think my sense is that probably it has to be a hybrid mode, 100% digital. I don't see that happening, and probably because there are certain negative aspects of what we have also observed, what Shikha also just mentioned, that when we go 100% digital, when we do not have a social connect, when we are not meeting people, I think there is an element of isolation which comes into play, right? So we need to have a very balanced approach, that we have programs which are digital as well as we also try to maintain that physical connects. So my overall experience of last 18 months, if we have to see on how digital well-being has played a role, I think very, very crucial. Today, the people are more comfortable talking to a doctor virtually, which was not the case earlier. If we have to, and Shikha can echo me from the Practo standpoint, that pre-pandemic times, utilization of a teleconsult was less than 5%. And even, all the startups into this space, they were struggling to ensure that there is enough adoption of, teleconsultations on a digital mode. But during pandemic, what we have seen that, because probably it was a compulsion that people had to necessarily, there was no choice, they had to necessarily opt for a digital consultation. Today, people are more comfortable, they're for themselves, for their families, because it gives you a far more accessibility of doctors. Any doctor, there is no geographical limitation. 24/7 a doctor is available for you. And specifically when, second wave was there, when you actually did not know that what to do, a simple cold was also triggering that kind of anxiety, within the people, that mujhe COVID to nahi ho gaya hai, or probably what should be my next step, or probably, they were seeing left, right, they were seeing people, there was that thrust for oxygen levels and all those things, were happening around. I think digital healthcare was a big rescuer at that moment, and we could see that all the organizations, who were operating in this space, they were actually touching the roof in terms of utilization, and that in fact, from a provider side, in fact, that also gave us one scope that probably digital companies are today relooking at the pricing model and the business model. But overall, from a recipient side, we see far more adoption for digital healthcare. I think that's a very positive sign what this COVID has given us. And this will continue. And I would like to give you an organization's perspective also today. Organizations are not thinking just to have solutions around pandemic. They want to continue. They are thinking beyond pandemic today, like what we are talking about, well-being, healthcare. It's not only wellness today, it's about well-being, it's about healthcare. So the overall definition of healthcare wellness is very big today. Organizations want to fulfill right from primary healthcare, moderate care, and the critical care. They want to ensure that whether it is through direct benefit extension or maybe an inclusion in the insurance policies, but the program has to be very inclusive. From an insurance, because we are risk advisors and insurance is our domain, I think a lot of organizations, majority of the organizations today, they are opting for flexible working. Flexible benefits is one of the key topmost agenda for at least the large organizations, because that's what employees are looking forward. A young employee may not look forward for a program which is not suitable for him. They might look for a gym membership or a lifestyle modification or maybe a maternity program. So I think from a defined benefit side, organizations are moving towards a defined contribution model. I think that is one of the shifts what we see, right? Second, if you see, the organizations have included home care within the insurance policies, or ambulance services inclusion. Ambulance has never been a topmost priority, for the organizations. So, but this came, into light when we were, in the second wave, and ambulance was not available, or for a kilometer they were charging about 13,000 rupees, right? So that kind of expenses came into play. So I think COVID overall has brought in many more perspectives, which is far more centered towards digital healthcare. And our sense and what our engagements with many of the large organizations today, what we see that it is going to remain. Digital healthcare, digital well-being will remain the agenda for the organizations beyond pandemic, because that's the learning what has given us. But simultaneously, a combination of digital healthcare and a physical intervention, that is how we will see the road, unfolding, happening beyond pandemic. That's my take on this.
Sure, Dr. Rajiv, those are some great insights and points made. So while we have all discussed and concluded that developing a new integrated concept of well-being at work from the viewpoint of workplace is important, especially now, the big question is how to make this pivotal shift from wellness to well-being, and why does it matter? So I would like to open this to all of you, and maybe we can start with Gitika first.
I think the why is very clear. I think across generations, how we view employment has changed. It's no longer a relationship which is you're my employer, I'm your employee, and it's not like a transactional relationship. It's a symbiotic relationship. I grow, you grow, and the organization grows, right? So I think that's the whole change, one very pivotal change, and that's the why we need to sort of move from just pure, like you said, wellness to more of holistic well-being. And again, going back to my point, for me, a career is one of the many important things, and a job is one of the many important things. And I want to be taken care of. And this is something we hear from employees, right? That how are you as an organization and as an employer, helping me to sort of stay healthy, stay in a good mind space, be my productive best, right? And add the value to not just the organization, but also to my personal and professional growth. Coming to the how, I think a lot of strategies have obviously been discussed here. I think one important element will continue to be to kind of, like I think Chandni said earlier, is to continue to keep this momentum of, leveraging all of, the digital health practices, the options that now have opened up. You're trying to look at health and well-being from a holistic perspective, whether it's comprehensive wellness programs, whether it's offering very customized solutions to different generations of employees that work across, across the workplace. And I think the most important one here will be to kind of integrate it into how your culture at the organization is, right? So starting with making it a priority for your leaders. A lot of organizations have started doing that, right? I mean, they're trying to build in a wellness score, which is like top of your business metrics, right? You discuss revenue, discuss profitability, but also you discuss how your employees are doing, and is there a wellness index that you can come up with. So I think it'll have to be a very deep approach, using all the strategies that have been there, using all the platforms, using digital, using automation, providing a very comprehensive program to employees. And then, like I said, it has to start with an intent, and it has to visibly be top of the mind agenda for the leaders and for the organization, for employees to start feeling comfortable that, yes, indeed, this is a place where I want to be, right? So that's my, 2 cents on this.
Sure, Gitika. Chandni, your viewpoint here.
So Gitika covered, so I'll probably just sum that as, from, let's look at from 3 people's aspect, right? One is the employee. So of course, this has moved up in their priority list. So if this is a top priority for them, it's top priority for all of us then, right? So that's one major shift that's come in their minds, and we need to cater to that bit of it. The second aspect would be from the managers or the leaders, right, who get work done from the team. And if you're not able to keep your team, at the best of their productivity, that means you're not able to do your job. So that's a part of your, as a manager's job as well, right? And until unless you don't have the entire well-being package, the person is not stress-free and is not able to concentrate. So today, it could be a simple thing that I'm not able to pay my EMIs, or how do I get that? If as the managing team, the leadership, or the HRs are not able to provide that, options, saying, you have so many options, this is how you can kind of, get through your financial requirements or get through your, mental issues, you're not able to do your job. So that's a shift that the managers have, or the leadership has, picked up. The third is from the organization aspect, is about to be able to provide all of these initiatives to your employees, to cater to all of their needs from all the different aspects that we've seen what entire wellness package, well-being package contains, right? So I guess the entire shift is to focus on these 3 aspects, which would one be of the right talent attraction, then of course the talent retention, and the talent growth, that is, they are able to give their best at work. So these would be the 3 major aspects that which is taken. I mean, if you're saying what was the pivotal shift, I would say this is the shift. The focus has been changing, and now we need to keep the momentum in this direction to ensure that we are able to get into that journey and the destination that we want to kind of reach. So
thank you, Chandni. So Chandni, while we talked about those 3 pillars like you talked about, there's an audience question. If you can just plug that in and you can throw some light on it very briefly. They're talking about the individual responsibilities when it comes to, self-care kind of things. How can organizations, push that thing that motivate employees to, towards a self-care kind of thing? Because organizations are doing their bit, but how to, progress towards a self-care kind of a push?
Right. So as they say, right, you can get the horse to the water, but the horse needs to drink the water, right? But actually a very good question, because see, as you said, Apeksha, the organizations are doing so much as managers, as HRs. We're trying to give as many initiatives as possible, but it's the employees who need to be picking it up. And that's why it's important that you're able to cater to different target audience. I like doing something probably, then I have a Zumba, I have a Pilates, or I have a meditation, or I have a laughter yoga, or, so, or I just like, learning languages, that's a stress busters as well that we say. So am I able to give that? Am I able to, oh, I'm a bike rider and I like riding bikes. So, if you can give me something like that. So we have a lot of these aspects, like the passion clubs, the passion studios that run. You're able to cater to different sets so that, the employees who's interested in one thing will come. You can't say, hey, what, I've launched this one initiative and I need 100% of my people going to be there. It's never going to be possible. So you have 100 activities, and each activity catering to at least one set of people. I think that's where the success is, where the employees will then take part to it. That will be one aspect. The other one is to build this as a behavior, as a culture of the organization, as a behavior that the employees, exhibit. So what you can do is also, incentivize these aspects, right? You take a health checkup, it's for your own good, and the employee benefits from it, but you just don't want to do it, right? So if the organization can then make it as a part of their rewards and recognition, say every time you do a health checkup, you get, this recognition or some reward points. So this will also further help motivate employees. And then as managers, in your regular town halls, in your regular conversations, keep pushing that bit of it, saying, hey, what, this is an important aspect. Have you done it? You don't have to do an elaborate session around it. You have a town hall, you have a stand-up meeting, just last 5 minutes saying, hey, what, how many of you have done your health checkups? Have you done your regular, we're doing a health challenge. Have you been a part of it? It's just that one conversation that comes, or even in an informal conversation that kind of come in. So this is there in the back of your mind. You're building that, right? It may not happen in just the next day. It'll take its time. Culture always takes time to, get in. But if you're able to do that, I think most of it, that the employees start thinking on that. Once you start thinking, when you have those conversations, it automatically gets incorporated. So that would be, I hope I've answered that question.
Yeah, sure, Chandni. Thank you. So going back to the actual question of making the shift from wellness to well-being, Shikha, your viewpoints here.
Sure, Apeksha. I think those were some very relevant points from you, Chandni, as well as Geetika. I'll just like to, try to add to them and give my perspective with respect to, what is wellness and what is well-being and how they are different from each other. So wellness is a set of habits and behaviors, while well-being, as per me, is more of a state of mind. While wellness is more focused on physical health, well-being emphasizes it emphasizes more on mental and emotional health as well, along with focusing on physical health. Well-being is more, much more holistic, and also focuses on areas not covered in the wellness approach. In order to help employees live more fulfilling lives, corporate well-being programs essentially should take into account 5 key dimensions of health. And I think this point was earlier addressed by Chandni as well, where she spoke about the different pillars of well-being. So I'd like to talk about 5 pillars of end-to-end holistic well-being. The first, of course, being physical. Second, being social. Third, being financial. Fourth, being related to your overall community, and fifth, being mental. And mental also is extremely important in these days, going back to the same point as we discussed earlier. So essentially, holistic well-being for employees ensures that they're doing everything they can, to live a healthier as well as a happier lifestyle, be physically fit as well as mentally fit, and be more productive at work, and also more content in their overall personal lives. And of course, with respect to well-being, as I mentioned, that mental health is extremely important. It's very important that you're happy in your minds. Going back to the question, Apeksha, that you were talking about, the stigmas around mental health. So, I would like to quickly once again talk about this, because this is very, very relevant and important. So even now, there are a lot of stigmas around mental health. In fact, and because of this, at least at the corporate level, we would need to create some peer support and campaigns to address the stigma within the corporate space, so that basically we can come out of it and start talking about it. So employees value tools that provide training while there might be stigmas about talking their own mental health, but they are appreciating and valuing training tools in how to support others facing mental health issues. And some of the very important and I would say successful modules have been training the managers. So manager training programs regarding mental health. And this kind of training can promote a culture of overall well-being by reducing the stigma around mental health in the workplace. So those were some of the points that I would like to add with respect to the overall holistic well-being.
Sure. Thank you, Shikha. Dr. Rajiv, if you can have your viewpoints here.
My take on this would be, while we see that organizations are very, very focused and they have revisited the benefit strategy, and overall there is a shift in the way health and well-being is being taken over and thought over. Even budgets are getting reassigned. But how much are we doing, for improving the utilization, that increasing the employee adoption? I think that's very, very important. A lot of times we see that we launch a program, but there is no enough utilization. Maybe people even do not know. So running that, engagement, maybe through a gamification, what, Chandani just mentioned, or Gitik also mentioned that creating a buzz, by a very, very engaging communication is very important to ensure that there is enough employee adoption. They understand, what are the benefits the organizations have extended to them and how they can be utilized, and the benefit not only for them, but for their entire family. I think that focus around utilization of all the solutions what we provide is one of the important key, what we see. Second important key is when we I think distribution of the benefits, equitable benefits to the entire population is also one important aspect today. That's what the learning has come in last 18 months. We cannot have benefits, different benefits for a director level C-suite, or probably at the lowest level, we have a different benefits, So I think organizations today have also relooked over the strategy of lowering down the eligibility criteria of availing these all benefit solutions and distributing all these benefits equitably among the entire population. I think these are some of the very, very pertinent developments, which has happened, which COVID has given us. And my take would be that these are all going to remain. The focus has to be that more personalization continues for the employees, whereby they value the benefits, what is being extended, and ultimately it also caters to the objective of talent retention, which is the far more greater agenda for all the organizations today.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. So there are a lot of takeaways, a lot of practical takeaways, so to say, which has come up in this discussion. So thank you, all of you, for this very insightful and interesting discussion. We are now opening the floor for the audience for the questions. I can see that there are a lot of conversations happening and there are a lot of questions. We'll try to take as much as we can in the 10 minutes while we conclude this session. So Shikha, we have this question for you from the audience. So one of the audience is asking, would the corporate healthcare plans go back to the way they were after the pandemic is under control?
Well, Apeksha, the answer is no, not really. They may not go back to the way they were in the pre-pandemic times. And this is because, as Dr. Rajiv just mentioned, that a one-size-fits-all sort of a coverage may not be enough, even after the pandemic is sort of settling and over. And this is because of several reasons. Employees, today are more mobile, and with the introduction of hybrid work model, there is a need of more flexible and sustainable healthcare plans to adopt to a new way of working, and obviously the sort of health threats which are pertaining all around us, and this is the requirement of the hour. Tech advancements also have made it very easy to customize plans to an individual's unique need, opening up to new possibilities in the corporate health coverage space for employees. And hence, we are looking forward to more innovative ways, and this is based on the demands that we have seen over the last 18 months. So we are looking at more innovative ways of coming forth with more customized corporate health coverage plans as we move forward.
Thank you, Shikha. Dr. Rajiv, would you like to add something to it?
No, I think we do not see organizations turning back. I think there is a lot of learning. I have been re-emphasizing it again and again that last 18 months, though it has been uncertain, unpredictable, but a lot of learning has come our way, in this uncertain period. And the way the organizations used to think, we all used to think, and even when I say organizations, I'm including MMC also, it has been very different, and we are not thinking of rolling out any of the benefits. All these benefits are going to stay. Maybe improvisation with the demands, with the current environment will happen, but definitely, like flexible working we are talking about. Organizations are not thinking that 100% capacity, they will start operating at a BAU level like a pre-pandemic phase. We will continue with hybrid working. And it is, I think, on the lighter note, organizations have also realized that there is no effect on the productivity when we are working hybrid. Why to spend so much on the real estate infrastructure and all those things, and digital enablements are there. If you see pre-pandemic, how much of us used to interact on the Zooms or Teams, and we never knew about these platforms. Rather, for one meeting, I used to travel to Bangalore and my full day used to go. I think so. All these revolutions, I would say, pandemic has brought into play. And today, whether it is from a supplier side or a recipient side, people know that there is no need to travel, for just a small interaction. Everything can be managed over a simple Zoom call or a Teams invite and all, and it is far more engaging. Accessibility is not a problem today. Today, you can get I can get a colleague from Singapore at any hour of the day, and have a interaction with our client. I think these are very, very progressive things which have happened. And I feel that as we are talking of benefits, all these developments what have happened, there is a definite change of mindset, and which is going to remain, as we move out of pandemic into an endemic stage as well.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. So there's another question, and Gitika and Chandri, this is directed to both of you. What must corporates do, and what strategies are they planning to adopt to brace against the third COVID wave? So Chandni, if you want to take that up first.
Well, I would just say the same bit of it, saying, we've learned in our phase one, we did a lot during our phase two, and that needs to continue. There is, probably a lot of us are thinking, hey, third wave is not going to be that serious, or some of us are still worried, saying, third phase is going to be more difficult. I think we should not let our guards down, as they say, right? So it would be continuing to do all the good work that we have picked up during these last 18 months and continue from that particular aspect. And probably, as Shikha said, was talking about the insurance plan, there was a question on that. So it is that we need to be strengthening it a little bit more and see what more additions can be done on those aspects. We did see a little struggle in the first, initial first and second phase, saying, these needs to be covered, how much can get covered, what is the costing for it, how much the employee or the organization is going to fund. So I think these are some thoughts that needs to kind of get added up in designing the entire thing again. But there is no looking back. I think it's only going to be that we keep adding more and moving ahead. So that would be Gitika.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I hope it doesn't happen, right? It's not a good situation.
Absolutely.
But, obviously one needs to be prepped. And I would say that I think second wave taught us a lot, right? As employers, as employees, as human beings. I think clearly, companies need to not let their own guard down, which is that if they had set up, let's say, crisis response teams, emergency response team, some bit of infra, startups, we are very small at Zeppe, right? But we do have like some sort of, plan in place that if there were a crisis that would come in, how would we sort of respond to that, right? But wherever possible, have the right kind of association, keep those deeper engagements with platforms where, for example, like Practo, where that there is easy access to, let's say, telehealth, teleconsultation, etc. So I think just sort of keeping a lot of the learnings from the last two waves in mind, keeping that infrastructure ready, having your own response teams ready, so that God forbid something happens, you can mobilize your resources very, very quickly. So I think that's something one can obviously do, but I would still say prevention is also important. So continuously educating and, letting employees know that, even if you're fully vaccinated, so very deep engagement and communication on sort of encouraging more appropriate behavior, because clearly we're still not out of the woods, right? So I would say that all of this sort of is what organizations should keep in mind to keep themselves prepped for an eventuality of a third wave.
Sure, thank you, Gitika. Dr. Rajiv, very quickly, there's a question that can the use of technology help mitigate the impact of health and well-being issues by keeping the workforce connected? If so, what are we doing about digital well-being?
No, I think, as I mentioned, digital well-being is going to stay. And I think organizations are putting all right tools, all right, empanelments, onboarding of the right partners is in the process, and it will still continue. And I don't see any reason. I think, as I mentioned, there is a consumer behavior change also. What pandemic has brought in play. Far more people are comfortable, talking to the doctor or maybe a counselor or a psychiatrist, which addresses, all physical, mental health and every aspect of healthcare. I think it will continue. And today, fortunately, we in India have right partners available, like Practo is one of the very, very promising partners today, in the digital healthcare space, which offers all aspects of primary healthcare. I think so. And overall, we see the environment is very conducive. And also, I think would like to highlight that from an insurance aspect, again, that's very important, because all of us has, all medical plans in place, all the organizations today. The regulator, IRDAI, has always, also taken very proactive measures in, allowing digital healthcare to be a part of the medical policies. I think that's a big step what has happened. So any consultation which is being utilized by a digital doctor, it can be claimed under the insurance policy if you have those kind of benefits included in the policy. I think a lot of steps have been taken. Overall market is conducive. We have partners like Practo who are available to service us. So overall, I think this is going to remain, and organizations' focus is much more in engaging with digital healthcare players, who can address their primary healthcare needs. And even today, many of the organizations today are thinking of replacing OHC, occupational health centers, or physical medical rooms, by a digital medical room. Maybe, whatever capacities you open, maybe 50% of the capacities organization work in 2022. So probably just setting up a paramedic, in the premise is good enough, and all the doctors are available digitally. I think so. There are new dimensions which are coming into play, and which will change the face of healthcare, what we are seeing it currently. And it has also already started running, thematic clinics. You have cardiologists, OPDs for 3 hours for 2 to 3 days in a week. I think it's no more, it's already a practical solution which many organizations have opted for. So you have 5-6 specialties, virtual OPDs running for couple of hours in limited number of days within the week, and employees are adopting for it. So digital healthcare, very, I think, from a consumer point, from an employee standpoint, very, I would say people are more adaptive to these kind of things, and organizations' focus will also remain, and it's still changing.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. So very quickly, we've already talked about a lot on mental health, but I can see there are a lot of questions coming from audience on the same aspect only. So Shikha, if you can quickly take one of the questions where they would like to know how to ingrain the talks on mental health as part of the work culture, in the work culture. And if we can also club into it the role of leaders there, and how it is evolving and how it is important.
Sure. So we've already spoken a lot on mental health, and of course, we did mention that employee value tools and and that provides training in how to support the other colleagues facing mental health issues, and something like a manager training program with respect to assisting the overall team in terms of any sort of stress that they are going through could be very relevant in this case. But over and above this, I think the employee assistance programs are also quite relevant. There is a virtual mental health program wherein advice with counselor at the hour when they need it 24/7 can be provided, and many corporates are opting for this particular program. This is received a great feedback coming from employees. And there are also some tools which are powered by AI, so because of the stigmas that we were talking about on the mental health side, sometimes we've seen that people are not comfortable discussing about their mental stress. Leave aside your colleagues or your office space, but even with their own family members or very close friends. So hence, here is where AI comes into picture, and you can have some solutions which are powered by AI, and they can address over a chat, which is available to you at a click of a button, to address very relevant questions on anxiety, sadness, or any sort of a personal relationship issue. And this is also some of the solutions that have seen a lot of positive feedback coming in from the employees. So it has to be a mix of all these sort of solutions on the mental health side. So be it a solution coming in from your overall peer group, that is one. There can be a one-on-one counseling with respect to a counselor being available at the hour when you need it. Or it could also be when you don't feel like talking to anyone real in person, there could be some AI assisted tools that could help you, to have a good heartful chat and release your anxiety at that point in time.
Thank you, Shikha. So while we're running out of time, there's a very, specific and because this is a very subjective topic, a very good question. So to say, and Gitika and Chandni, if anyone of you can briefly just take this up, it is on how can employee wellness be measured? Are there any good practices in this area, or if you are following any of those in your organization? So Gitika, if you would just like to take this up very quickly.
Sure. So I think it's definitely getting a lot of traction of how do you measure this, because ultimately, we can't just work on anecdotes and, what we're, hearing. So business understands numbers, right? So to make it an agenda for the leadership, you need to also show them numbers. I'll share what we are intending to do, and I'm sure, there are many other things that, one can do. But for example, I spoke about the wellness index, right? Which is something that we intend to do. So we are partnering with a AI-powered employee engagement tool, and amongst other things that get measured. I think one of the questions or sections that we are trying to introduce there customizes a sentiment analysis, which sort of understands on a day-to-day basis or at a certain frequency how are employees feeling. And the point Shikha mentioned that the 5 pillars of physical, mental, emotional well-being, socially, how well you're connected, right? So we are trying to sort of, introduce something like that. And I think in addition to that, some quasi or proxy metrics, which one will have to work hard to establish correlation, but can be done, is obviously, an employee who's or employees who are feeling good about, they're in a good space physically, mentally, emotionally, their productivity will be high. You will see better retention. You will see less absenteeism, so things which you generally associate with, good health and well-being stage of mind. So these are, I think, the 2-3 things which are evolving, but a lot of work still needs to be done in this space, in my view.
Sure. Thank you. Chandni, very quickly, if you want to add something to it.
Yeah, probably just a couple of points here. One would be, exactly as Gitika said, numbers are something that we all want to see, and that's what we believe in. So one would be, of course, on the uptake on the number of people who are taking the initiatives, right? It could be your sessions, or it could be your health checkups and so on. So one is on that number. We've also come up with something like the health index, So that again gives you a number saying, with all your health checkups and all of that happening that you're taking. So that's a health index that comes out. So that's a number aspect. The other intangible would be more from the aspect saying, because, of these sessions, you're more, stress-free, you're more engaged and you're more productive. So your engagement survey will give you that scores as well to you. And then even more an intangible number would be your right talent attraction. Again, the same 3 pillars of, are you able to attract so many more people and are you able to retain them? So that would be from the aspect.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. So just to conclude the session today, as business and HR leaders and the thoughts that you all have shared here, we all know that our employees are one of our biggest assets, so to say, and they're typically the ones out in the field doing the hands-on work that makes it possible for the organizations to run effectively. And we have seen it during the pandemic times as well. So it makes a lot of sense to ensure that your employees are healthy, happy, and productive. And that is the thought that resonated in this discussion as well. And I'm sure all of you, the audience here who are present here, are encouraged by the beginnings of a massive shift in the workplace on well-being, but that needs to be continued in the times to come. So with that hope, a very positive thought, I would like to thank all of you, our esteemed panelists, for joining us today and sharing their thoughts, and to the wonderful audience for taking time to participate in this discussion. Thank you and have a great day ahead.